I was on Twitter casually looking at indie games when I spotted Mega City Police. It was only a brief preview of what the game would have to offer, but I liked the clear references to 80s/90s sci-fi/cyberpunk movies, a retro-styled look/gameplay that appeals to me, and that's really all it took for me to want to give it a try. Once I started playing MCP, I was even more drawn in. The dev for this game really knew what they wanted to get across. I was met with cool-looking artwork, music, and Asian characters. Normally, I'm able to tell the difference between Korean, Japanese, and simplified Mandarin, seeing as how I studied it back in school, but with MCP, I couldn't see details that make these languages stand out from each other. Besides being drawn in by the game's artwork, I liked that I was immediately able to choose from a wide variety of weapons. Seeing as how I've only played this game for almost 4 hours and I'm sure that I didn't see all it has to offer, there's most likely a lot I didn't experience. Still, having a lot of weapons to choose from, even from the beginning, was nice. With each playable character, you start off with a basic weapon, but the more you go through the sections of a level, the higher the chance of you finding additional weapons. At first, they were pretty basic weapons that weren't rare at all. Despite that, it was nice being able to choose from a basic pistol, a rocket launcher, a laser weapon, or a shotgun. There were more weapons than the ones that I just listed, but those were the ones I usually stuck to. I'm sure that sticking to pistols in a game like this seems counterproductive, but I was especially fond of the revolvers. It's because of their firepower, so instead of having to shoot enemies 3 times or more, I could take them out in 1 or 2 shots. I've already hinted at this, but MCP makes use of looter-shooter elements. The more basic weapons have their names outlined in plain white, but some of the rarer weapons were outlined in more colorful ways, such as purple. You'd think that having a rare weapon would automatically make the game easy, but it didn't. Each weapon had its pros and cons. If you found a weapon that was incredibly destructive, you'd quickly realize that it didn't have much ammo. The key thing was finding the right balance between a useful weapon that you'd regularly find ammo for. What bummed me out was that you could only carry 2 weapons at a time. I eventually realized that other characters could carry more, but seeing as how I felt most comfortable playing with the rookie character, I put up with that handicap. Besides the usefulness of some of the rarer weapons, I was especially entertained by how some of them stood out. The plasma weapons would ricochet off walls/objects, so that added a sense of strategy to gunplay, and there were also explosive weapons such as a grenade launcher that would turn enemies into mincemeat. It's a retro-styled game, so the violence isn't too graphic, but there's plenty there to still get a kick out of being that aggressive. Speaking of plenty, the levels in MCP were procedurally generated. I like that because it's interesting, keeps you on your toes, but also because every now and then you'd run into a special event. It involved criminals breaking out of jail and you being forced to take them down. What was especially interesting about this was that the enemies were tougher than the general ones. Most of the time that wasn't too big of a deal, but sometimes it was. It didn't help that besides having more health than the general enemies, these guys also had better weapons. I wish I could say that I quickly took care of them each time, but then I'd be lying. One of the reasons why this is a first impressions video instead of a full-on review is because I felt that the game worked against me. I'm sure that there are some out there that like this style of roguelike game, but I'm not one of them. Personally, I prefer my rogues to involve having upgrades spill over into subsequent runs and making your overall experience improve. You could say that unlocking new characters counts towards that, but I would have gladly taken 1 or 2 characters instead of having a handful to choose from and having to restart anew over and over again. The fact that progress made during runs spills into subsequent ones is one of the reasons why Hades is one of my favorite rogues. Each run in MCP starting from 0 just left me feeling like I wasn't fully progressing. I was definitely getting better at the game, but I didn't have the stats or in-game abilities to support that. I can definitely see the positives to this system being utilized. One of them being a way to ensure that players will play for a greater period of time, and it's a general way of having control over difficulty and progress. It also doesn't help that games like this require more time than more straightforward games. For someone that buys a new game once every few months, it'd be perfect, but for someone that plays multiple games a month, it just leaves me feeling rushed. Despite having played close to 4 hours of MCP, I enjoyed most of what I experienced. It delivers the retro sci-fi goods that appealed to me during my formative years back during the 90s, and it didn't take long for me to pick it up. If this were the only game I had to concentrate on, I'd get a lot more out of it. Seeing as how I'm juggling multiple games at once, some of its aspects irked me more than they should have. If I couldn't start off each run stronger than the last one, I would have at least taken being able to continue from the last level I reached as a consolation prize. I know that ended up going against the very nature of MCP, but even within subgenres of games that you've previously enjoyed, it's possible to find 1 or more that just don't click with you. Even if I admit that Mega City Police wasn't entirely to my liking, The looter-shooter elements, retro references, and number of weapons to choose from are more than enough reasons to give Mega City Police a try. If you're like me and you want to see permanent results from playing a game, chances are that Mega City Police isn't for you. How do you feel about roguelikes that start from zero? Do the retro vibes and diverse weaponry tempt you to dive into the world of Mega City Police? If you enjoyed this content, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you very much for watching.